incredibly grim picture of the Israeli-Hamas war. Gaza's health ministry says more than 60,000 Palestinians have died in the 21 months since the fighting started. This comes as a leading international authority on food crises says the region is on the brink of famine. The group is called the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, or IPC. It says airdrops are not enough and are calling for all aid routes to be open to allow convoys in. The group says if food and other supplies don't get through, there will be widespread deaths. Crystal Gamansing has more on what's in this report.
Well, Katie, this is a very stark warning from the IPC partnership. As you mentioned, it is a multidisciplinary group that is backed by the UN, and it is coming out with an alert today, and we can break down some of the highlights for you. It says that the worst case scenario is currently unfolding. Famine is unfolding right now on the Gaza Strip. It also says that food consumption has sharply deteriorated, with 1 in 3 individuals going without food for days at a time. Now, that point is something we have heard from other organizations, including the World Health Organization. And it also says that the latest data indicates that famine thresholds have been reached for food consumption in most of the Gaza Strip and for acute malnutrition in Gaza City. Now, even with that, it's important to note that this is not a declaration of famine. It is an alert about the unfolding situation. Now, we have seen and numerous calls from more than 100 aid agencies as well as world leaders calling on Israeli officials to allow for more aid in a organized manner to enter Gaza. We see scenes like the one you're looking at right now of people rushing towards the trucks that have made their way in, taking what they can. They are being looted. These are very dangerous situations, and so aid groups are calling for more access in an organized manner. Let's break down what the IPC says needs to happen in order for there to be a declaration of a famine. There's 3 different criteria that has to be reached. It hasn't been declared at this point. The IPC says that in order for famine to be declared, at least 20% of households in an area must face an extreme lack of food, that at least 30% of children in an acute state of malnutrition, and 2 people for every 10,000 dying each day to outright starvation or malnutrition and disease. Aid groups are saying that because of fighting, because of blockades, they aren't able to collect the data at this point that's needed to make the declaration of a formal famine. We are hearing, given this new alert, this new warning from the IPC, from Israel's foreign minister, he was asked by the BBC in Jerusalem today about this report, and he is saying that these are lies.
With regard to the situation in Gaza, I would say, first of all, it is clear that after almost 2 years of war, the situation is tough. But there is a lie, and the lie is the starvation policies which the international media, including BBC, is cooperating with.
So the Foreign Affairs Minister there saying there is no starvation policy. We also heard that from the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. And we have seen a bit of a change from the Israelis. On Sunday, Katie, they did implement a 10-hour pause so that aid could be collected and moved to different locations. That happening in 3 key areas, Gaza City, Deir al-Balah, and Mawasi. Those are locations that are heavily populated with displaced individuals. In the meantime, we are hearing that the IPC says it is working on a more detailed analysis right away, and they're hoping to have some more information. This, of course, builds on the last detailed report that came out in May that warned of the potential for a catastrophic level of food insecurity for the entire population. They projected that would have happened in September, Katie.
Thanks, Crystal. Crystal Gamansing reporting from London. The humanitarian situation remains dire in Gaza, but some aid is getting in. Dozens of trucks from Egypt entered Gaza for the third consecutive day today after Israel eased its blockade of the enclave. Journalist Blake Sifton is in Tel Aviv with the latest on aid delivery.
As international aid organizations continue to sound the alarm about starvation in Gaza, the Israeli military is continuing to hold these brief pauses in fighting in 3 separate areas of Gaza to allow for the distribution of aid. But it is important to remember that amidst those pauses, the violence elsewhere in Gaza is still continuing. Just since dawn this morning, local health authorities have said that 62 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli strikes. This follows the death of 78 Palestinians on Monday, including 25 who witnesses said were killed while they tried to access aid coming in convoys in southern Gaza. Now, in a statement issued on Monday night, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had said that while he recognizes the situation on the ground in Gaza is difficult, he accused Hamas of faking the numbers, of staging and manipulating images of starving people. In comments to reporters in Scotland on Monday, President Trump appeared to refute that statement, saying there is real starvation in Gaza. You can't fake that. It is important to note that throughout the almost 22 months of this war, the Israeli military has not allowed international journalists to enter Gaza to see the situation for themselves. In other comments on Tuesday, Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar said that this international pressure that's mounting on Israel over the humanitarian situation in Gaza is emboldening Hamas and is hardening their stances in negotiations. Those ceasefire negotiations underway in Qatar have stalled, and last week both Israel and the United States recalled their negotiators.
So all of this is happening as 2 Israeli human rights groups are accusing Israel of genocide. What are these groups saying?
Yes, that's right. Yesterday, Monday, 2 very prominent Israeli human rights organizations released reports directly accusing the Israeli military and government of genocide. Now, we have heard accusations like that from international groups like Amnesty International in the past. However, this is the first time it's coming from the mouths of Israeli human rights organizations. They have detailed the killing of tens of thousands of women, children, and elderly people in Gaza, the mass starvation and displacement of the population, as well as destruction of civilian infrastructure and homes. The group B'Tselem have said that Israel is taking coordinated, deliberate action to destroy Palestinian society in the Gaza Strip. Israel is committing genocide against the Palestinians. The other organization, Physicians for Human Rights, they say that they describe a deliberate dismantling of Gaza's health system, and with it, people's ability to survive. This amounts to genocide, they say. Now, the Israeli government has rejected these accusations, as they've rejected all accusations of genocide in the past. And in relation to this specific report, a spokesperson said Israeli forces target terrorists, never civilians.
Journalist Blake Sifton in Tel Aviv.